Hello and welcome to the Sideline Live podcast. My name is Orla Keeling and I am the host of the podcast, where every week we bring you a brand new episode with guests ranging from Olympic champions to local heroes, coaches, support staff and anybody involved in the world of sport. Each week we will dive into different topics, including current affairs in sport, identity, skill, mindset, coaching, and also shine a light on those flying under the radar. So tune in for brand new episodes, new stories, and new insights you've never heard before. This episode is proudly sponsored by Sport Expo Ireland. Taking place at the Sport Ireland campus on April 21st and 22nd, 2027, attendees will hear from leading voices in sport, take part in interactive workshops and masterclasses. To learn more and register your interest, visit sportexpo.ie, which is linked in the description of the episode. Now, let's hear from today's guest. Okay, delighted to be joined by Brian Petruzzelli of Hoop Group. Brian, thank you for joining me all the way from the car in North Carolina.
Yeah, Orla, thanks for having me on. Like I said, over the past week, I'm really excited to be here. With you. Obviously, you've had some incredible guests. I'm sure I don't have the most Irish last name, but I'm really happy to be a part of this.
No, thank you. Give us your elevator pitch for the listeners here in Ireland that don't know who you are.
So, Brian Petruzzelli, I'm the director of events for the Hoop Group. I've been at Hoop Group now for about 6 years. Hoop Group is one of the biggest basketball event operators in the country and globally. It's somewhere that I've not only worked as a full-time employee and coach, but I also played in Hoop Group camps and Hoop Group tournaments when I was in high school. And honestly, one of the events was the sole reason I ever got recruited. So the place is very special to me. Prior to Hoop Group, I was director of basketball operations at St. Peter's University in Jersey City, New Jersey, my home state, for Shaheen Holloway. Shaheen's someone I've known for my entire life, and is now the head coach at Seton Hall. Had a ton of success. Unfortunately, a lot of that success was after I left, but we are, really happy for him and how successful he's been at both spots. And then prior to that, right after college, I got my start in the industry as a grad assistant at St. Louis University in the Atlantic 10. The head coach there at the time was Travis Ford. Coach Ford is not only a great coach, but one of the most decorated players in Kentucky basketball history. So I worked for two, unbelievable people and coaches and former players. And one of the unique things about both spots was it was the first year for each coach when I joined the staff, the first year at the school. It was Shaheen's first year as a head coach and first year at St. Peter's. And then Travis Ford was in his first year at St. Louis. So at those two spots, I, really learned how to build the program. They had to build it from both were St. Louis was a rebuild. Shaheen was in his first year as a head coach. So I learned a lot from those two, just from a leadership standpoint and building a program, building a brand. And now in the past 6 years at Hoop Group, I've ran our tournaments, I've ran our camps. Like many people that have worked here, wear a lot of different hats, but at the foundation of everything we do, it's to help senior athletes get recruited and play in college or beyond.
Did you always know as a player you wanted to be in the industry after?
I was kind of born into it, which I'm thankful for. My father was a high school coach in New Jersey, and I always say my mom didn't have to pay for daycare because she would just drop me off at my dad's basketball practices. So it's part of who I am. It's something I've always wanted to do. So, yeah, I guess I was kind of born into it. Wouldn't say I was forced into it. Played a lot of different sports growing up, which is kind of unique in today's day and age. There's a lot of players are focusing on just one sport, which I think being a multi-sport athlete is is critical in your development as an athlete. I think more kids should play multiple sports, but so basketball was always my first love, and I'm very fortunate to still be, a decade into working in the basketball industry.
Can you tell the difference, or is it too difficult to distinguish who's a multi-sport kid athlete and who isn't when there's more kids specializing early now?
Yeah, I think that kids that play multiple sports, one, they're less injury prone, which really helps. Um, and two, you develop different capabilities in each sport, physical capabilities. If you're a football player, you're using different energy systems. You're sprinting off a line and then stopping after, just a few seconds. In basketball, you're up and down and you might have some stops. Soccer, you're not, you're running miles and miles per game. So, achieving those physical capabilities from each sport really help. And a lot of the time, kids that play multiple sports for whatever reason, I just feel like they become really good leaders in whatever sport they play.
What do you think when kids are growing up? I'm conscious of some parents that listen. What are the big mistakes you see that parents and kids make in their developmental stages when they want to excel in the game of basketball?
I think in a nutshell, people are doing way too much right now. There, there's kids that are playing on multiple teams. They're going from their high school team right to their AU basketball team. They're playing way too many games. And the United States, we're falling a little behind in our development of players. And I think this is true in every sport, is there's a lot of pressure for parents to keep up when their son or daughter is sitting at home on a weekend and another girl or boy is playing. They think that they should be playing that weekend. And it's just a constant rat race to keep up. And it doesn't necessarily mean because one person's playing, one isn't, that's right. So and it's become extremely, I'm sure we'll get to NIL, the transfer portal, and that type of stuff in recruiting, but it's just become extremely difficult to navigate the youth sports system in the United States. In the past few years, youth sports have become a multi-billion-dollar industry across all sports, not just basketball. So it's extremely difficult to navigate. I would suggest the parents, players, especially young players coming over from Ireland, to find ambassadors of the game that they can trust and who have not only gone through a recruiting process, but have helped kids and parents through it as well. Um, so I think finding who those people are is crucial, who your ambassadors are.
We spoke a bit before recording about Hoop Group. Just I'm interested when you mentioned it there. The industry has become worth billions of dollars. To be an independent basketball circuit in around the giants of shoe brands that are everyone knows. What's that like navigating that industry with there's so much money on the line and as an independent circuit?
Yeah, the industry's become very crowded. There's a lot of companies, I'm biased. I think Hoop Group's incredible, but there are a lot of companies like it now across the board, across the United States. And due to that, a lot of events have thinned out with their talent level. There's too many teams, there's too many events. And in the United States, we only have a few weekends a year that are Division One recruiting or evaluation periods. We call them live periods for short. And we will run an event in Pennsylvania, for instance. There's an event in Maryland. Nike is in Memphis, Tennessee. Adidas is in Indiana. We have Puma now, who was, I believe, somewhere in the Southwest. And then you have about across the country, dozens of independent operators. So it's really thinned out where the talent is going. And it's become hard for kids to get recruited because of it.
Yeah. The thing I realized kind of being in the States and being around and having conversations with people is how difficult it has become for high school players to be recruited because of NIL, other routes, excluding JUCO when I'm talking about the guys coming over that have played pro in Europe or the G League. and coming back to college. What has been, have you seen that difficulty for the high school player now to be recruited?
It's there's no sugarcoating it. It's the hardest time ever for a high school player to be recruited. Um, you have 50 years of eligibility. Some kids are being granted sixth year. There's been court cases for eligibility. You have it's become so wild that there's a player at Alabama that was given an injunction and played just a few. I think he may have played in one or two games. Um, Charles Bediako, and then was deemed ineligible. So he came back to college, was deemed ineligible, left. So you have situations like that nearly and this is a little bit more prevalent at the Division 1 level, but you speak to is saying that it's transfers first, and it's become, who can be the oldest, well, or then you're going to junior college, then you're going down to high school players. So but with that, you have a lot of players that are falling below the level that they should be playing at or would have been playing at in a normal year. So it's been extremely difficult. Like I said, there's just no sugarcoating it right now. So trusting is,
How long do you think it'll take for it to reset again?
yeah, I think we'll see that day, but college basketball is never going to be what it was. It's at the highest levels of college basketball, and like I said, we're talking more at the Division 1 level, not Division 2 and 3 for the most part, but at the Division 1 level, it's these kids are not amateurs anymore. This is professional basketball, and it's become so professional that you see most mid to high major Division 1 schools hiring a general manager now just to manage roster construction, NIL budgets, and so on and so forth. And at the highest levels, teams that make the NCAA tournament are constructing a roster like an NBA team. They have hired a general manager. Most schools have some type of analytics that they're looking at and honestly, this is true. Who's worth what? There's no, and the simplest way to put it is what is a high major center that averaged 10 points a game and, 8 rebounds? What is the essential going rate for a player like that? That is where we're at right now. And that's what these coaching staffs have to, guide their programs through.
Is there room for late developers anymore? Or is it just you need to be good early to get a chance?
I think there's always room for late developers. I think the advice I would give is to go where you feel like you can be successful almost right away. A lot of players have gone to a school, been really successful, or transferred up to a higher level. And in some cases, kids that have played in our events have gone to a level that may be slightly below where they would have been at in a typical year, and have transferred to a bigger school on a level that they belong. So there's a lot of different cases, but I don't think it's ever too late for a kid that's a late developer to get in somewhere.
Mm. The one thing I noted or kind of realized, but I kind of had heard of it before I came properly and did a basketball trip to the States, but was just the level of athlete that plays basketball. Whereas here it's general people and athletes play basketball. What removing the kind of the freaks of nature that you might see when a kid isn't physical but can stand out, and I'm talking about can jump out of the gym, etc. What allows them to stand out? I'm interested in the qualities that you can spot in really good players.
Yeah, I think at the higher levels, size and physicality is the greatest separator. There, there's the Division 3 player that may be an unbelievable shooter, great defender, may be able to play with a kid of that level, but it's slightly less physical, not as big. I think that's the biggest separator from a recruiting standpoint. But everybody has something that they do well, and the, the higher you go, the higher level you go, whether it's high school to college, college to the NBA. As you go up each level, your role will be defined more and more. The when you're in high school, you may be averaging 20 to 25 points a game. But in college, somebody's got to be the best defender on the team. Somebody's got to be the best rebounder. Somebody's got to go out and guard the other team's best player. There's a lot of other factors than just scoring the basketball. And when you go from college to professional, the NBA is all role players. There's only so many Kevin Durant's and Victor Wembanyama's. So the higher level you go, you need to understand who you are as a player and how you can impact winning as you go up a level.
Mm. You have a really interesting background, not only as a player, but your experience at the college level, and now in your role. When you go into a live event, in the mindset of recruiting a kid, or when you're looking at kids, what's the first thing you look for if you were interested in recruiting a player, if you theoretically had scholarships to hand out?
Yeah, I think shooting the basketball is what I would look for first. I think you can teach defense at the next level, but you need to be able to shoot. You need to be able to guard your position and shoot the basketball. I think those are the first two things I would look at. Obviously, attitude and just having that X factor of being a competitor is crucial, but the ability to shoot the basketball is at a premium, and being able to defend your position at a high level would be those two or three things would be what I would look for. And I think really stands out. Coaches want guys that can shoot.
Away from the actual ability on the court, how important is, you mentioned attitude, communication, the intangible stuff that kids might not look at. How important is that?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important with less and less opportunities, like we just spoke about. You don't want to be crossed off somebody's list. You if you start with a great attitude, everything else will kind of take care of itself. If you can shoot the ball, if you can defend, if you can rebound, if you're playing your role and doing what you can do, recruiting will take care of itself. But you don't want to get crossed off somebody's list by simple things at an event, not running back on defense, talking back to your coach, having a bad attitude. I mean, those three things would get you cut off the list instantly, because the amount of pressure on college basketball stats right now is at an all-time high. And to recruit a high school player, they need to check off a lot of boxes. And you don't want a box not checked off.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good way of putting it. Division One versus Division Two versus Division Three, from a player standpoint of ability. I'm just interested, what's the separator between D2 and D3 and D1 and D2?
Yeah, I think, like I said before, I think a lot of it when as a kid is a fringe scholarship player, or is probably a Division II prospect or fringe Division I player. I think more often than not, it just comes down to size and physicality. Um, you can be a 6'2" shooter, and there's a school looking for a 6'6" shooter. So I think that's really what it comes down to. I think when you're looking at recruiting and understanding how good you are as a player, I would look at who you can guard more often than not. Who you can defend is who you are as a player.
Mm. Do you- in terms of the opportunities for next level, I don't like to say it, but luck is an important factor in a player's journey a lot of the time.
I'm sorry, will you repeat that?
Sorry, I was just saying, in terms of getting opportunities for the next level, we don't like to say it, but luck is actually quite important with a lot of these opportunities, unless you're the freak of natures like Kevin Durant and LeBron. They'll find you anywhere, but sometimes a lot of it comes down to luck and
Oh
opportunity.
yeah, yeah. I mean, in 6, 7 years, I've seen some incredible recruiting stories, and more often than not, it's one opportunity at an event. It's playing on the right team in front of the right coaches at events that you can trust. And yeah, I mean, some of it roster spot frees up late at a school, you're at the right event in front of the right coach, your coaches you play for have a connection to a school. There's definitely some luck involved, and there's been some incredible stories because of that.
Mm. Can you give us one of those stories? Maybe you don't have to name anyone if you don't want to.
Yeah, I think one of them is a kid named Wes Anise. Wes played in our HDSL or Hoop Group Showcase League for Team Wildcat. Wes was a little bit under recruited, a 6'2" guard who had all the abilities. Was a great athlete, was strong, was physical, could shoot. He was crafty with the ball, had great instincts, but he just wasn't, you know, getting recruited at the level that a lot of people thought he was, which was probably at the time like a low Division 1 type conference. A lot of people thought he could play in. But Wes found the right coaching staff at Lincoln Memorial, Division 2 school in Missouri, and went there as a freshman and averaged nearly 20 points a game, was on a top 15, top 20 Division 2 school in the country. And in the age of the transfer portal, coaches are looking at stats. They're looking at who's the best defender, who's the best shooter. We need a guard that can make plays. Are there any guys that we can get at the Division 1 level? If not, let's go down to Division 2. And Weston East was the name that came up for South Florida, and went to South Florida and just led them to an NCAA tournament this past year. Head coach Brian Hodgson took the head coaching job at Providence, and Weston East is now playing in the transferred to Creighton University in Nebraska and is now a Big East guard. And this is a kid who initially was a fringe Division 1 player and went to Division 2 level. But I think it's a silver lining in all of this is if you're getting recruited and you feel like you can be successful somewhere and you can impact the program and be happy, because obviously that's very important too. Great things can happen, and great things happen for Wes.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. I love asking this question. You see a lot of young athletes and you see the what they can do, but also their potential and where they can go. And sometimes those players like that redefine their potential during their career. What, barring freak injury, what stops a player from reaching their true potential?
I think your mindset is so critical. This is very, very hard. It's hard to get recruited. It's hard to continue to improve at the college level. It's hard to get on the floor. I think it all comes down to mindset. Are you gritty enough to go through a season where you may not be playing well enough? For every success story of a kid transferring up a level or laterally, there's also some horror stories of kids transferring and not having as much success as they would have if they stayed. So I think it all comes down to just being gritty, because this is a hard thing to navigate. It's obviously extremely hard for international players to navigate, not understanding the landscape, but also these are kids. It is hard to move away from home, and the kids that can sustain the grit, the toughness, and mindset to power through their careers are the players that really make it.
Mm. What separates the best from the rest then, Brian? What's your take? I ask everyone this question.
Yeah, I think it's just that it's mindset. And you take
Mm.
coaching well, and you play for a coach that has your best interests at heart, but it's going to be really tough on you for 4 years. Are you going to be a great teammate if you don't play really well? Are you gonna defend? Are you gonna create for others, or are you just gonna be on the bench and think about not being able to score the ball? It all comes down to mindset at the end of the day. And kids may be right at the cusp of being a scholarship level player, and they just don't pan out because they can't take coaching well. They can't get through 4 pretty grueling years of college basketball. They get sidetracked and all the other stuff that comes with college, which is great, but when you are playing college basketball in the United States, you're working. It's hard. So having the right mindset will help
Mm.
kids power through.
I was speaking with Clinton Afinda. He's an Irish guy. Went over at 15. Played high school when Duke Red is now D1. He's going to be in the MAC this year. One of the things I asked him about was how did you balance when you're being recruited, being a good teammate and getting others involved, but still getting your own plays and scores and what you need to do to get recruited. How do you balance that line, Brian? Like it seems like very thin, like a tightrope nearly that you're trying to balance being a good teammate, as you mentioned, but also getting your and finding your own way in the recruiting process as because it is so tough.
Yeah, I think off the court, it's understanding your role within a team and what you can do to impact winning. And then on the court, I think things always come back to you. If you're creating for others, it's going to come back. If you during a game, if you set a great screen for somebody, that's going to free you up for a good shot. If you're moving the ball, it's going to come back to you for a great shot. So I think on the court, it's create for others and it always comes back. And then off the court, when you're analyzing film and you're meeting with the coaching staff, it is critical when you're going to college to understand your role. Why is a school recruiting you? They're not recruiting you to be a shooter. You're probably not going to get a lot of screen set for you at the next level. They're recruiting you to be a rebounder. You better get there and rebound the basketball. So in the recruiting process, understand why you're being recruited and what's expected of you at the next level. And then when you're there, really over define that role, continue to improve on other things, but play your role, great for others, and things always come back.
Mm. Have you noticed shifts, since social media and highlight culture and all that stuff? Have you noticed that at the underage grassroots level? Everyone trying to shoot threes and step backs and all this
I
stuff.
think the higher level of grassroots basketball you go, I don't think kids are looking at the cameras as much. At the younger levels, kids are kind of, their eyes are kind of wide when they see cameras in a gym. But the higher level you go, when you get to, for us, 11th, 12th grade, and you're almost at the college level, the less you kind of look at. But there's a huge demand for everything to be on social media nowadays. And there's some great things that come with it for college staffs under seeing social media and seeing a schedule of when a kid is playing and things of that nature is great. Covering an event and putting out standout performers and things of that nature are great. But a lot of these players now, they have their own personal videographer that's in some cases that will go to all their games. And it's become a problem a little bit here in the US that there's such a social media craze around all these sports. But it's just another thing that kids, student athletes have to kind of block out and just focus on the court, focus on, 94 by 52 feet, everything in between that lines they need to focus on.
There's a great saying, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. You've worked in sport for the last couple of years, a dream to many. Is that statement true?
It's true as long as you value your relationships. It's been the greatest thing for me is the amount of people that I've met due to a basketball. It's it's fun. It's a lot of work. I wouldn't say that there aren't days where there's a ton of anxiety and pressure to work in this industry, but it is one of the most rewarding industries. And most of the reason why it's so rewarding is because of the relationships you develop and the types of relationships you develop with players, with parents, with coaches, with college coaching staffs, with professional coaches. If you don't value the relationships and understand that those are the foundation of everything you do, then you're not going to last very long in sports.
Mm. We're having a couple of Irish, obviously, we're having a lot of Irish kids going over now to play high school and college. But there's people that want to go and coach or be involved in the game at some level. What advice would you give to people that want to work in the industry that are currently in Ireland?
Yeah, I think get over here and work either hoop group events or any good operators, events, camps, and tournaments, and work college basketball camps. A lot of Division I schools run their and Division II and III will run their own camps. It's a great way to get on campus, meet coaching staffs, meet players, meet coaches at other schools. A lot of the time, these Division I schools run a camp that are staffed with Division II and Division III coaches. So it's a great opportunity not only to meet a coaching staff at a school at Division I level, but across all levels. So, and that's something that I did. I had, like I said, I came up through high school playing in hoop group events, so I had a connection, was able to work camps with hoop group, and also worked a lot of college basketball camps as well, and it really helped me to meet people and get my foot in the door.
Is there a misconception that we have about working in a college program that that you would hear it when you've been on the inside and you're like, that is so untrue, or people have it so wrong?
I think that a lot of people glorify college basketball and see the one shining moment at the end of the year and don't truly understand what really goes into it, and the pressure and the amount of hours and the amount of things that you're doing off the court. You do a lot more off the court than you do on. And I think it's just comes down to that. It's not really understanding everything there is with college basketball. And right now there's more than ever involved in the job. During the season, these staffs are working 14 hours a day. You you forget that these are kids sometimes, and they're on campus and they're living on campus. Some of them are living away from home for the first time. So you're helping navigate kids through one of the probably the most important 4 years of their life, while also trying to perform on the basketball court. So it's a 24/7 job. And I don't think a lot of people really understand that.
Yeah, you can't switch off. Is you're being involved in hoop group events as a player, what perspective has that given you now as a staff member? Is there anything that you know or understand that you wouldn't have known because you or if you hadn't have played it at in those tournaments?
Yeah, I think I was very lucky to have a father who was a high school coach and understood a lot and really helped guide me. But it takes one opportunity, and it took one for me. I played in tournaments, I played in big camps, and I had a coach that was a high school coach at the time who really liked me, took a liking to me. I was always a pretty good shooter. And at the camp that I attended, he set a lot of, designed a lot of plays for me, and I played well, and he gave me a lot of confidence. And about 3 months later, I was at a fall showcase. They were called Top 100s at the time at Fairleigh Dickinson. And I saw him, and he had a different logo on his chest, and it was Newman University. He said, I just took a job as an assistant at Newman in Aston, Pennsylvania, a little bit outside Philadelphia. And he said, I want to recruit you now. And that was my one opportunity. And I took it. Eventually transferred from there, but that was my into college basketball. So when, my advice when navigating this process is it's not going to happen at every event. You only need one chance to really, impress the right person. And, I'm glad I have a story to share like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, and you want to trust the right people. You want to play for a coach that has either been recruited himself or helped kids get recruited, and really vet out these programs because there's so many of them right now. When I was, I'll just share this quick. When I was in high school, there were maybe 4 to 6, maybe 5 or 6 really reputable AAU basketball programs in the state of New Jersey. And the one that was closest to me, I really wanted to play for. And my dad said I wouldn't be able to play for them. And the reason was the starting point guard was a kid named Kyrie Irving. So I had no shot of ever playing for the New Jersey Roadrunners. And I played for a small team coached by a kid's father. And at that time, programs weren't as prevalent as they are now. Events weren't as big. There weren't as many event operators. So my dad said, you got to go to camp. When you go to camp, nobody knows who you are. you know who you are, go show who you are. And I took those things and I went to a camp and I said, you know what? If I make one shot, they may think I'm the best shooter ever. Let me just go out and just give them my all, and it and it and it worked for me that weekend.
Amazing. I love that line. You know who you are, so show who you are. And even that story about that coach that recruited you, there's another lesson in there that you never know where someone can end up. So you like in terms of how you treat people, treat everyone with the same level of respect, because just because they're at this school now doesn't mean they won't be somewhere else later on, or vice versa. Like there's just a bit of a lesson there that don't ever like don't take away your own opportunities by your attitude and how you treat people, because that could come back to you kind of further down the line in a good way or a bad way.
Yeah. Nick Saban gave a commencement speech. It may have been a year ago at this point, but he said, treat people well while you're on your way up, and you'll get treated well if you're on your way down. And I think people need to remember that. You never know where somebody's going to end up, and you never know who somebody knows. A Division III coach may have a friend that's at a Division I school, or the Division III coach may end up at a Division I school. So you never know where somebody's going to end up. You never know who somebody knows.
Yeah. Could you tell that early with Kyrie how good he was going to be? Was it obvious to everyone in New Jersey?
So Kyrie's very unique. His father was a professional player, Dedrick Irving. I believe he played at Boston University. But when I first heard of Kyrie Irving, he was the leading scorer in the state of New Jersey. And, I saw his name on the list. He was a sophomore. And I looked at the school he went to, and it was Montclair Kimberly. And Montclair Kimberly had never been known for basketball. So I was like, oh, well, he's not, maybe he's not playing the best competition. And then the next year, Kyrie transferred to St. Patrick's and was unbelievable. And I think he was ended up number 2 in the country by his senior year. He may have been one at some point on some publications, but I think Kyrie's father had a plan for him, both on the court and off. Montclair Kimberly is a prestigious academic school, and to go there, get your academics right, go to St. Pat's and just flourish was the right path for him. And we graduated the same year. I don't know Kyrie personally, but we graduated high school the same year. So I was actually one game away from playing him in our county tournament. We played in the same county, so I'll never forget that. Just missed them. But watching him, he never, every level he's gone to, he does the same thing well. There's nothing, he didn't over dribble. He didn't, need the basketball in his hands the entire game. He's the type of player that you look up and it's like, when did he score all these points? He has 30 points. He didn't, he got other people involved. He created for others. He got his own as it came to him. And when you see him in the NBA, and he's towards the end of his career now, which makes me feel old, but he's towards the end. But when you've seen him in the NBA, it's like these are the things he was doing in high school, but he's doing it at the NBA level now, and it's incredible to see.
Yeah. You mentioned your dad and him being a coach. How did you manage that relationship as well? That's a unique one.
Yeah, I always say that basketball is the reason I'm here, and I'll get to that in a second. Um, but my dad was the perfect sports parent and the perfect sports parent that also happened to be a coach. He got involved if I wanted him to be involved. He always said, if you played a musical instrument or played any other sport, as long as you weren't out in the streets, I'm going to be behind you. And when I told him I wanted to play college basketball, he was tough on me the way a college basketball coach would be. And I'm from Jersey. I think everyone in Jersey has a little bit of an edge to them and a little bit of an attitude. And I think at times, you know, taking hard coaching is one thing, taking hard coaching from your father is another. And we definitely butted heads a lot. But he taught me so much, not just about the game of basketball, but being coachable, whether it's on the basketball court or having a boss in any industry. That's what my dad taught me. But he got involved when he needed to. But he sat back and he was a fan at games. He wasn't my coach, and he understood that.
Mm, mm. Yeah, AZ Fudd's dad gave a good line. I interviewed him there late last year, and he said after games, I would say, "Do you want to eat or do you want to get ice cream?" And there was kind of that line of, "Do you want to talk about the game or do you want to just go get ice cream and I'll be dad again?" It's just interesting how everyone kind of balances that line because it is hard while you get different perspectives. It is, and I think you gave a great line there of getting feedback, but then getting feedback from a coach that's also your dad is hard, and it takes a lot of maturity to manage that at a young age.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I always managed it very well. It was difficult. Um, but I think, he kind of understood the role um as a parent. He had to transition quickly. Even my first year in college playing, he would go from coaching his high school practice and driving 2 hours to come see my game. And I wasn't playing a lot, but he would drive 2 hours with my mother to see me play in a game or suit up and not play at all. Um, so he transitioned quickly from coach to parent, which I hope I can do one day. He's always been incredible.
What is Kyrie the best player you've seen up close, or is there someone else as talented that maybe didn't make it or did make it?
I think Kyrie and like I said, because I had seen him so much being the same high school graduation year, and playing in my county. I went to Roselle Catholic High School in Roselle. At the time, St. Patrick's was in Elizabeth, New Jersey, which is only about 10 minutes away. So I got to see him play a lot. He's probably the most talented, and I think it's a little biased him being, in our county, but also having achieved so much in the NBA. But aside from him, and it's another St. Patrick's player, but one of the guys that I loved watching was a guy named Corey Fisher. And Corey's now an assistant coach at Wagner College in Staten Island, New York, in the Northeast Conference in the NEC. And for anybody that you can find some Corey Fisher highlights on YouTube, he ended up playing at Villanova and had a great career. But Corey was probably one of the best guards I've ever seen play off 2 feet. Every time he drove to the lane, everything was off of 2 feet. And it's something they stress at Villanova. I mean, he was built to play there. But for young guards, especially guards that are undersized, watching somebody like that get in the lane, play off two, have great footwork, create for others. He was also a great shooter, but he was really fun to watch. And I wasn't as quick or athletic or as big, but he's somebody that I watch and try to take a lot of things from.
Yeah. Brian, who do I need to get on the podcast? And if you do suggest someone, I need your help. So choose wisely is my advice.
Oh boy, that's the hardest question you've asked. Yeah, I think if somebody that understands the international space, somebody that I think I have a great answer for that. Is somebody I've never met and really admired what he's done from afar is a guy named Brandon Goebel. And Brandon is the head or founder of JUCO Advocate. I believe he just ran an event in Ireland. I don't know if it's coming up or it just ran at the JA 48, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
But Brandon is not only great at what he does, but he's an ambassador for junior college players and the game at the junior college level. And obviously, just having run an event in Ireland, he can give a great perspective. Brandon knows a lot more about the junior college level than just about anybody, and has some connections, obviously, to Ireland. I believe he is Irish, and having run an event there, I think he'd be somebody great to be on. And like I said, I've never met Brandon. I've admired him, and if you have him on, I'll definitely be a listener.
Yeah, he actually helped a couple of Irish kids as well. Owen Nelson being one of them. He ended up went JUCO and then went to University of Wyoming, and I know he's helped a couple of other players as well. But yeah, that's a good shout. I'm going to move on to the sideline seven. It's the same 7 questions at the end of every episode. Brian, question one: what's your favorite quote?
Ooh, I'll go back to my father. When he was, and this is kind of funny. my dad, like I said, was a high school coach and high school teacher. He also or excuse me, taught driver's ed. And now, not only being coachable in basketball, but being coachable driving a car with your father teaching you. He told me, when he was coaching me through it, don't take the impersonal personal. It's very, very simple, but understand who your people are, who are your people that are trying to help you, and don't take constructive criticism. The more you can take it, the more you're going to be able to give in your career.
Very good. Question two, best sporting event you've been to?
Outside of the Final Four, I would say last summer I went to see a game in soccer game in Barcelona,
Oh,
and
wow.
at the time the new camp was being renovated, so it was at the Olympic Stadium. And I have never college basketball and football fan bases are rabid. I've never seen the type of passion that Barcelona has for a sports team, and how civil the fan base is. It was like you're going to, some outdoor barbecue. I don't know any other way to put it. They're singing the entire game and cheering on their team, and there's no. I found it funny. There's no alcohol even sold at the stadium. It was
Oh,
people
wow.
were there just to watch soccer, watch football in their case.
Oh, wow.
But it was incredible, and I think you could take stuff from different sports, but that's probably the one for me outside of the Final Four, which if anybody can get there is incredible.
Yeah. Have you ever watched hurling?
I've been to Croke Park and have seen many hurling and Gaelic football matches at Croke Park, and there are a lot of similarities in both sports to basketball.
How did you find being in Crow Park? I didn't know you were there. That's brilliant.
Oh yeah, it's I think the first time I went there was to see Tipperary, and I was super young. I didn't know. You can explain Irish geography to me all you wanted. I was probably 6 or 7 years old. And I have no family in Tipperary. My family's from Kildare. I
Okay.
was a massive Tipperary fan as a 7-year-old because that was the first match. My uncle's more of a hurling fan than Gaelic. I think it was, I think it was a hurling match, and the fans chanted tip 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 the entire game. And for 2 or 3 years I had Tipperary merchandise and was a Tipperary fan.
Very
So,
good. Very
but
good.
I was obsessed with it. I love the passion that they have for the Gaelic sports.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's really interesting. Question three, and the biggest setback or challenge so far in your career, and how did you react to it?
So I mentioned earlier that I was at Newman University for 1 year, and I think the mistake I made was I focused so much on basketball. I absolutely love the coaching staff there. Many of them I still talk to this day, which, speaks to them as people because I had only been there for a year. Being a professional helps keep in touch with them, but um, Lenny Stanziano was an incredible coach to work for, and still keep in touch with him today. But the school just wasn't a fit for me. It was really small. It was about 2,500 to 3,000 kids, which is really small for a school in the U.S. Um, so after that year of not only not playing a lot, which I would have stayed and gritted it out, but not being happy off the court, I had to make a move and went to Montclair State. And Montclair State's in a conference called the NJAC, the New Jersey Athletic Conference, and the style of play there is extremely fast. There's a lot of great athletes, great players, and got cut from that team. They had open tryouts. I thought I might have a spot and got cut. A lot of people don't know that there's a lot of lower uh, level schools, Division III schools, I mean, that still host open tryouts, and that was absolutely devastating for me, beyond devastating. And it was a piece of who I was that I felt was ripped away from me. Um, but moving forward and maturing, nothing was ripped away from me. All it was a pivot, and that pivot was the coaching and being involved, just in basketball, off the court in any way I could. And I went back. Ironically, had a connection with the team, the New Jersey Roadrunners, that Kyrie Irving had played for, and the program that I was not a good enough player for was the program that I kind of got my foot in the door coaching, and coached the springs and summers with them, and coached in the winter with my father and his coaching staff for years as well. And those things helped guide me through it and kind of shift. My passion's basketball, and all I had to do was really just shift into a different area of the game, which was coaching and now running events.
Amazing. That's like a complete 180, which is really cool. What is your biggest achievement then in or outside of sport?
I think the probably biggest achievement is just being able to sustain um, being at Hoop Group. I know it's not exactly an award or anything like that, but being able to move up. When I first got here at Hoop Group, I was just running camps, and I've kind of moved my way up uh, through the profession, and now oversee all of our events. And I think that's, so far, at least in my professional career, has been my greatest achievement. It's just working my way up within this company and helping kids in any way possible, even if it's just in a small way, helping kids get to the next level and be recruited. There's nothing that will, kind of top that for me in the profession. That's not really an award.
Question 5, advice to your 18-year-old self.
Listen to people. Listen to people that are trying to help you. Be coachable. I was very stubborn as a teenager, and I think sometimes, whether it's myself or others, have somewhat of a victim's mentality. Everything that happens is because of somebody else. And when I got through that and realized you're the driver of your bus, you're in the driver's seat. You're not a passenger. You know, get control and have a vision of what you want to do, whether it's professionally or in sports as an athlete, um, and listen to what people are telling you. If I listened to my father more, I wouldn't have. I've gotten to where I want to be. But if I listened to my father more, I probably would have got here quicker. And just listening to your coaches and your teachers just a little bit more, that are trying to help you. Um, and just yeah, I think I was just a very stubborn teenager, and I think sometimes being stubborn can be being a good thing as a professional, but kind of getting through that has helped me. But find who your people are outside of, if you're lucky enough like me to have a father that was a coach, and if not, just listen to your coaches, listen to your teachers, and understand who your people are.
Brilliant. Question 6, dream dinner guest and why?
One would be John Wooden, or, um, and James Naismith. Those would be 1 and 2, because I guess I would love to answer this in
It's
2 part.
self-explanatory.
I would love to answer this basketball, non-basketball, but
Go for
I'll,
it. Go for
I'll,
it. I'll
I'll,
give you. I'll let you break the rails. Go on.
I'll answer in basketball. James Naismith, who obviously invented the game. John Wooden, who's one of the most decorated college basketball coaches of all time. Um, and then 3, Billy Donovan has always been my favorite coach, and he's one of the few that have coached at the college and NBA level. So I think those 3 at a round table discussion would be incredible. You have you have one coach who has won over 10 national championships. You have another that's won 2 national championships and has coached at the NBA and college level. And I think everybody listening would love to see James Naismith's face when he sees where basketball has gone. So those 3 from a basketball standpoint. Um, and then from a, off the court, I guess that kind of answers the question. I guess we could leave it there. It's a very hard question. Um, but I guess those 3 from a basketball standpoint, I think would definitely be my 3.
Yeah. I said dream dinner guest, and you've given me 3. Everyone cheats and says and gives me a dinner party because it's too hard. But they're a good 3. Final question, Brian. If your life was a book, what chapter would this be called?
Ooh, that's definitely the hardest one. You save that one for last. I'd love to hear some of the other answers. I think a few years ago, like would have been called redemption, and I guess let's call it the Renaissance. I think that would be a great chapter name, the Renaissance, where I've really started to figure out, and now I'm on kind of a smoother track. You know, yeah, I would call it the Renaissance. I think that's a great name for it. I think I've kind of figured out my place in sports, and I'm going to continue it.
Amazing. No one has ever said the Renaissance. I like that one.
Yeah.
What, Brian, what's the best place for people that are listening that want to follow up questions or just want to follow your journey? Where's the best place for people to do that? I'll link wherever is best, but you let me know.
Yeah, my Twitter is Brian Petro 4, Brian with an I, and then Petro, which has always been my nickname growing up, Petro, the number 4. And then my email is very simple. It's brian@hoopgroup.com. Either of those two spots.
Brilliant. And I'll be sure to link that in the description of the episode. Brian, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your time. Delighted to hear you've been to Croke Park, most importantly, and look forward to catching up, hopefully someday in Ireland, if not in New Jersey at some point as well.
Oh, I love that. Yep. I really appreciate it. It's an honor. And Irish basketball has improved so much, and it's incredible to see. So I really appreciate you having me on.
No, thank you. Brian, mind yourself, and I'll chat to you soon.
Thanks, Laura. Take care.
And that is it for today's episode of the Sideline Live podcast. A huge thank you to our guest for sharing their story, insights, and experiences with you, the audience. If you did enjoy the episode, please do leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as it does help the show grow. If you are interested in more content and information or hearing from upcoming guests, you can follow our social medias at the Sideline Live, which are linked in the description box of the episode. If you do have any guest suggestions or topics you would like to have covered, you can send us a message on social media or email thesidelinelive@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.